If you were a man, nobody would have given you this interview.
That Mr. Depp has proven all the elements of defamation. Answer, yes.
Okay, guys, so I said that I wasn't going to talk about this anymore. But sure enough, Amber Heard has come back with yet another interview about this topic. I'm really shocked. I was not expecting her to come through and do an entire Today Show interview about this shit. I really wasn't. And then the weirdest thing is they dropped a 2-minute excerpt of it yesterday, which was Monday. Today is Tuesday. And they dropped a 10-minute part of this interview on the Today Show channel. And then I go to find this portion of the interview again, and I can't find it, which is the weirdest thing because it should be in my history. So I'm wondering if maybe there was a lot of negative comments, like, I don't know, but sure enough, this interview has been posted to multiple different channels already. I'm honestly very like, what do I even say that I haven't said already? I honestly think that she needs help. The fact that she is willing to sit here and say that she's going to stand by what she said until her dying day, despite the fact that they have proven it to her that she hasn't been truthful. I don't know what you do with a person like that. Someone who is literally having their lies told to them straight to their face by the person. Like, not even the person, because this isn't Johnny interviewing her. This is just some, like, reporter. Some impartial person who is not even part of this is telling her, like, we saw it. They didn't believe you. What say you? And she just continues. I'll be honest, she kind of scares me. So I'm gonna put on the interview, and I'm gonna be reacting to it again, because I'm sure there's gonna be things I'm gonna pick up on that I didn't see the first time. So
it's been about more than a week since the verdict. As you sit here with me now, has it sunk in?
okay, so first of all, I find a lot of similarities already between her testimony and the way that she's answering questions here. The way that she sighs and prepares herself to answer the question is it's performative. But let's continue.
How could it? Surreal and difficult. In part, yes. This has been a long time coming.
Do you stand by your testimony and your accusations against Johnny Depp about abuse?
Of course, to my dying day, will stand by every word of my testimony.
I get that she wants to appear as though she never lied. So she just goes all the way. But that doesn't help your point at all. If anything, it makes you look worse.
The real-life drama of the defamation case between Amber Heard and her ex-husband Johnny Depp captivated millions of people around the world.
Amber Heard just got exposed.
Johnny, you hit me.
This is so cringe.
With clips spreading across social media like wildfire.
I think vast majority of this trial was played out on social media.
this really, really bothers me. This narrative that this was played out on social media. Amber, no, it wasn't. This trial, the effects of it, what we saw outside of the courtroom, they did their very best to keep, both things separate. The gallery was not allowed to interact with anything going on, with the case, except for on your side where you obviously had a friend passing notes to your counsel. So if anything, if anyone were to believe that outside people were able to influence any part of this case, I feel like obviously you would be the one to believe that, because you're the person who is doing this shit. No one else brought social media posts or anything of that relation into the court but your team. I don't know. It feels very like you're trying to divert the attention away from the simple fact that you did something. And I also think it's funny that she tries to say that Johnny's legal team was trying to distract from the actual point at hand, because that is some serious projection, sister. Sounds like that's what you did.
I think that this trial is an example of that gone haywire, gone amok. And the jury is not immune to that.
You think the jury saw it?
How could they not? I think even the most well-intentioned juror, it would have been impossible to avoid this.
The most well-intentioned juror. If this doesn't sound like putting blame on a jury, I don't know what does.
People online and crowds outside the courthouse made it clear where they stood.
Every single day I passed for 3, 4, sometimes 6 blocks, city blocks lined with people holding signs saying burn the witch, death to Amber. After 3.5 weeks, I took the stand and saw just a courtroom packed full of Captain Jack Sparrow fans.
Okay, Amber. You're laying it on real thick.
Who were vocal, energized.
Can you put into words how?
They weren't vocal, actually. Like, at any point when the gallery made any sound, Judge Penny made it a point to say, hey, I could make this an empty gallery real quick. But, okay, Amber.
How that felt.
This was the most humiliating and horrible thing I've ever been through. I have never felt more removed from my own humanity. I
believe that. I do believe that. That it was very humiliating for her, and it did remove her from her humanity. But, here's a big but. That doesn't mean that you get to escape your accountability, Amber. It just feels like you're just running away. If you would have just taken the L, if you would have just said, okay, I'm going to take my loss gracefully, maybe I do have these problems. Maybe if I seek some help, I can put an end to this, and I can admit to the faults that I had in this relationship. Johnny was on the stand admitting the faults that he had in the relationship with you. I don't see why you couldn't do the same. That would have come across way better to a jury than whatever the fuck this is.
I felt less than human.
Let's go back to the day of the verdict. Were you feeling confident?
It doesn't take you that long to come to an answer, Amber. These long pauses are just like, what is the reason?
That's a great question. I wish I could say yes. That's a great question. I wish I could say yes to that. I want to say yes to you, but it wouldn't be true. Even if you think that I'm lying, you still couldn't look me in the eye and tell me that you think on social media there's been a fair representation.
Do you find
That one quote right there has been just repeated and repeated and repeated so many times, and I understand why. We're angry at her because we can look at her. We can look her in the face and say that it was fair. You showed all the evidence that you wanted to show. We saw it all. We saw it next to the evidence that he had. And there were multiple times where you presented evidence that were the same pictures for two separate incidences. Why should we believe you, Amber? It's so upsetting that these networks continue giving you the time of day to just continue spreading these lies when it's already come out in a court of law that no one believes you. If you were a man, nobody would have given you this interview.
that Mr. Depp has proven all the elements of defamation? Answer, yes.
After the 6-week trial, the jury found Heard defamed Depp in a 2018 Washington Post op-ed in which she wrote she was a public figure representing domestic abuse. She never mentioned her ex-husband by name. Depp denied the abuse allegations in court. Heard won just one of 3 claims in her countersuit against her ex-husband. That verdict came less than 2 years after a judge ruled against Depp in a similar case in the UK, in which he sued a British newspaper that called him a wife-beater.
There was another trial, dealt with the same substantive issues that had even more evidence in. In fact, my evidence was largely kept out. Really.
Because you weren't the person being sued, Amber.
Really important pieces of evidence kept out. Done differently, handled differently by a judge instead of a jury.
Some evidence is admissible in a UK court that is not admissible in a US court. Do you think that maybe he just had better lawyers?
I will say his lawyers did certainly a better job of distracting the jury from the real issues.
You see that right there? What kind of manipulation of words are we doing here?
Some people, they just were frankly disgusted by the whole thing and don't have much sympathy for either one of you. Can you understand that?
That's fair. Honestly, that from the interviewer is very fair. A lot of people have no patience for this case anymore and are very sick of hearing of both of them. And I get it. Like, why do we want to hear about these two people who were in a very hurtful relationship with each other, where she was clearly abusing this man? He was trying his hardest to get away from her. And when he finally did, she spreads these terrible, terrible lies about him, trying to extort money from him. And he finally has to fucking sue her so that she can stop spreading lies. And then he finally wins in court and she's still fucking doing this shit. Like, I'm sick of hearing it myself, frankly. I wish they would stop giving her screen time. And here I am, still giving her screen time. But I just want people to understand this right here, this is mental illness. I don't think that she is okay. I think she believes her lies fully. I fully believe that she doesn't think that what she did was wrong. And that is sad. How many people do we know who go throughout their lives just abusing their partners and leveraging their sex appeal and their their female wiles and thinking that that's enough to get them through life and get them money and get them positions in people's lives, and they get away with it. This is one time where I'm glad to see that she didn't get away with it, but not everyone is that lucky.
Absolutely. I would not blame the average person for looking at this and how it's been covered and not think that it is Hollywood.
I have just memorized all of the mannerisms in this woman. Every time that she's about to just fucking lie, that's what comes out of her mouth.
Brats at their worst. I'd covered and not think that it is Hollywood brats at their worst. But what people don't understand is it's actually so much bigger than that. This is not only about our First Amendment right to speak.
But here's the thing.
I'm glad that she was about to say something, because somebody needs to tell her this is not what the First Amendment is about. She is so mistaken. So let's just go back to the part where she says the shit, and we're gonna let Savannah tell her.
Hollywood brats at their worst. But what people don't understand is it's actually so much bigger than that. This is not only about our First Amendment right to speak.
But here's the thing about the First Amendment. The First Amendment protects free speech. It doesn't protect lies that amount to defamation. And that was the issue in the case.
Yes, exactly. You can't go into the free speech does not protect you if you go into a crowded theater and you scream fire. We get the concept of free speech from the Greeks. My understanding of what that means is not just the freedom to speak.
My understanding of what that means. This woman will twist anything to suit her.
It's a freedom to speak truth to power.
But truth is the word.
Yes.
And that was the issue.
And that's all I spoke. And I spoke it to power. And I
spoke it to power. Amber, come on. You lied multiple times on the stand. Multiple times.
paid the price.
In the closing arguments, the Depp lawyer called your testimony the performance of a lifetime and said you were acting. What do you say to that?
Says the lawyer for the man who convinced the world he had scissors for fingers.
What? Yo, she is so impressed with herself that she said that. Like, we all know that was a movie, Amber. What?
I'm the performer. I had listened to weeks of testimony insinuating that, or saying quite directly that, I'm a terrible actress. So I'm a bit confused how I could be both.
Amber. Not only did she just roast herself to say that, she's like, wait, so they said that I was a terrible actress. And now they're saying that I was acting the whole time. Which one is it? Amber, no one believed you. Don't you get it? That was the point. I'm sorry. I need a minute. I need a fucking minute. This fucking bitch.
The Depp team argued that you were the abuser, that you instigated physical violence. Did you?
I never had to instigate it. I responded to it. When you're living in violence and it becomes...
That was another lie. Right there. She never instigated it, but she responded to it. There was a recording that they played in the court where she said that she started fights.
It becomes normal, as I testified to. You have to adapt
You say you were responding, but is evidence. There are tapes
Thank you, Savannah. I like you. I knew I liked you.
in which you acknowledge hitting. There are tapes in which you say, I started the fight.
I know much has been made of these audio tapes. They were first leaked online after being edited. What you would hear in the
Yes, but they were in court in their entirety. So what?
those clips are not evidence of what was happening. It was evidence of a negotiation of how to talk about that with your abuser.
But I am looking at a transcript that says, he says,
Yo, Savannah got the transcript. She ready.
you start physical fights, and you say, I did start a physical fight. I can't promise you I won't get physical again. I mean, this is in black and white. I understand context. But you're testifying and you're just telling me today, I never started a physical fight, and here you are on tape saying you did.
As I testified on the stand about this, is that when your life is at risk, not only will you take the blame for things that you shouldn't take the blame for, but when you're in an abusive dynamic, psychologically, emotionally, and physically, you don't have the resources that, say, you or I do.
Amber. I'm gonna be honest. Anytime like she just goes into one of these monologues, I just want to check the fuck out.
With the luxury of saying, hey, this is black and white, because it's anything but when you're
We know that it's not fucking black and white. We know that. That isn't the point. The point is you're fucking lying.
living in it.
But then there are other times, there's another tape where you're taunting him and saying, oh, tell the world, Johnny Depp, I am.
Not only that one, there's another one where she's lying and she's like taunting him and she's like, yeah, why don't you just run away to one of your other houses, you big man. Oh, you big man. Y'all remember that recording? That one was really, really, really disturbing because that was where she was basically demonstrating how every single one of their fights ends up, with her making fun of him for trying to leave the argument while she's trying to get physical. Why don't we ever show that recording?
Man, the victim of domestic violence.
20-second clips or the transcripts of them are not representative of even the 2 hours or the 3 hours.
What's representative, Amber? Do we need like a whole fucking video recording of you punching this man in the face for you to finally admit it?
Hours that those clips are excerpt from.
Could your side have just put the whole 3 hours in then?
I'm not a lawyer. As I test,
I'm not a lawyer. Girl, the point is, I feel like your team tried their best to put their foot forward and defend you in any way that they could, but they could not defend an abuser because the evidence showed that you were the abuser. Let's be real.
testified to, I was talking in those recordings as a person in extreme amount of emotional, psychological, and physical distress.
He
And
says
it
he
doesn't-
never hit you.
He can't-
Never. Is
yeah.
that a lie?
Yes, it is.
What about the witness?
She says that with such confidence, without even thinking. Do you guys see that? How she takes so long to say the answers to her own questions. All of her questions have the long-winded sigh before them. Yet when she gets asked, is it true that Johnny never hit you? She has the instant answer. I don't fucking know what to like believe. I think that's what bothers me the most and what I find like most weird about her. It's just she makes me speechless sometimes. And looking into her eyes, I don't feel anything. I'm just like, it's blank.
witnesses who said they have seen you instigate physical violence.
I've seen firsthand how people will file rank and support the person they depend on.
Did they all come in and lie in court?
I am not here to call any of his witnesses any names.
Oh yeah, you're not gonna call any of them names, but you're gonna call them liars. Without actually calling them liars, you're just gonna distantly call them liars.
I'm here to just kind of talk about it from what it felt like for me as a person who sat there.
When I asked his lawyers, why do you think you won? And the answer I got was because she never took responsibility for anything she did in the marriage.
I did do and say horrible, regrettable things throughout my relationship. I behaved in horrible, almost unrecognizable to myself ways. I have so much regret. I freely and openly and voluntarily talked about what I did. I talked about
The way this whole answer is formulated, it's like very.
the horrible language. I talked about being pushed to the extent where I didn't even know the difference between,
Pushed.
right and wrong. I will always continue to feel like I was a part of this, like I was the other half of this relationship, because I was. And it was ugly and could be very beautiful. It was very, very toxic. We were awful to each other. I made a lot of mistakes. A lot of mistakes. But I've always told the truth.
I'll be honest, this interview did nothing for me. It did not help her in any way. If anything, I feel like it pushed her back. I would have preferred if she came out and didn't say anything. I wish they would have taken their L in peace. That was not it. Anyway, thanks for watching that with me, guys. If we get any more of the press tour, I will be sure to cover it for you guys. And I appreciate the continued support. Until next time.